When you create an original MARC record, here is the basic outline for what to do. First, pick a Spark template based on the kind of material being cataloged. Next, enter the fixed field information. Start with 008, then 007 if needed. Third, complete all of the needed MARC fields from the template. After that, insert any extra MARC fields or subfields that may be needed. Then, delete any unneeded fields or subfields from the template. And finally, save the MARC record and add your holdings. Here is the book that we need to catalog. It's a kid's book, and it's one specifically chosen because there is no way that any decent, God-fearing library in Pennsylvania would ever own this. We know that if we search Spark, we wouldn't find anything, and if we looked in Z39.50, we also would not be able to find it. So it is time for us to do the grunt work of original cataloging. To begin, we go to Cataloging, and then we click on Create New MARC Record. Next, click the drop-down, and we select the appropriate template. For what we need to do, the template that we want is Book. And after that, we click the Load button. And here is our template. Next on the agenda is working on the fixed fields. This is much easier in Enhanced MARC Editor. So if Flat Text Editor is turned on, when you get to the screen, just uncheck the relevant box. Here is the chart for the 008 fixed field. There are guides in the Spark Cataloging Knowledge Book that go into great detail about what to put in each section, and we will make sure that there are links to those guides in further resources. I often find that it's easiest if I just start at the top left corner and work my way right, row by row. So, zooming in a little bit, type is correct. Nothing to change here. Encoding level. We are cataloging by physically inspecting a book, so this should be left blank. For audience, we right-click in the space. This is a kid's book, but we don't know anything about a specific intended age range, so the safest pick is probably just juvenile. Control. This should be left blank. Language. Language is always a 3-letter code. Our book is written in English, so we can keep the current value, lowercase e, lowercase n, lowercase g. Bibliographic level is preset to M, which is correct. Form should be left blank, so that's good. And our book is not a conference publication, so we look at the 008 guide and we enter 0. Our book is not a biography, so we can leave this area blank. MREC, that is modified record, should also be blank. And for the country code, this book was published in Virginia, so we would right-click, scroll all the way down to the bottom of a very long list, and then we would click on lowercase v, lowercase a, lowercase u. Content should be blank, as should government publication. At literary form, we right-click. This is a make-believe story about a Major League Baseball mascot, so that qualifies as fiction, not further specified. Our book does not have an index, so we consult the guide and we leave the current value 0. The I next to description means that our book is cataloged according to RDA standards, and this is correct, so we change nothing here. For illustrations, we right-click in the space, and our book has basic hand-drawn pictures, so we will go with the generic option of A for illustrations. The next space is Festschrift. This is a German term that means celebratory publication. It's a book honoring a respected person, usually an academic professional, written by that person's colleagues and presented to said person during their lifetime. And why any of that matters enough to warrant its own fixed field, I do not know. But our book is not one of these things, so we just enter a 0. And the final 3 spaces have to do with dates. Right-click next to the first area and pick Single Known Date. Then click in the second area and type in 2008. And because publication date and copyright date are both the same, we can leave the final space blank. Wow, that is really dry when you take the time to explain every last step. But once you get the hang of things, it does go by much quicker. With all of that, the 008 field is complete, and because this is a book, there is no 007 field. We now can move on to filling out the rest of the MARC fields. Before we begin that, however, click on the Help button so that we can view the command shortcuts. Now it's just a matter of completing every field and subfield that we can. Start at the top with the ISBN, and we would just work our way downwards. Once we have filled out everything that we can, the next thing is to insert some additional fields and subfields. The first addition that we should make is to the 650 subject field. Since this is a fictional book and a book for kids, we should add a subfield V with the content juvenile fiction. To do this, left-click anywhere in the area here. Next, look at the command shortcuts at the top of the page, and the one that we want to use is Add Subfield. So we press Ctrl D, and new subfield spaces appear. Click in the smaller area and type in a lowercase v. Then click in the next space and type in juvenile fiction. Another addition that we should make. For the ISBN, I always like to include both the 13-digit version and the 10-digit version. So let's click in the field that says 020. Then look above at the shortcuts. If we press Ctrl down, it will duplicate the 020 line. Now all we need to do is click on one of the 13-digit ISBNs and type in the relevant 10-digit ISBN. Yet another minor addition. The 700 field for added entry author. It would be nice if we had a subfield E to indicate that this person did the illustrations. So we left-click on the gentleman's name, and then we use the shortcut for Add Subfield, Ctrl D. Then we click in these spaces and we type in the relevant code and the relator term. I'd like to add a few more subject fields. To do this, let's click on 650, and then we use the command shortcut for copy current row below, Control down. Then I click on the subject term in the newly added row, and I type in my new value. I think we also should include a geographic subject field for New York City. So we click here, and then we use the shortcut for add row, Control plus Enter. Next, right-click where it says 999, and a pop-up will appear. Scroll down quite a ways, and eventually we get to 651, the field number for subject added entry geographic name. Fill out the spaces for the second indicator, for the subfield code, and for the geographic name itself. And then we go through the steps that we just reviewed to insert additional subfields for description and travel and for juvenile fiction. By this point, we have added all of the information that we can to this template. So the next step is to remove all of the template spaces that we don't need. We can start with the 010 line for LCCN. Our book doesn't have one of these, so let's delete the field. First, click in the field number, and then we use the command shortcut for remove row, Control Delete. Next, at the 245 line, our book doesn't have a subtitle, so we can get rid of the subfield B. Click in the space, and then use the shortcut for remove subfield, Shift Delete. The only thing is, by doing what we just did, we kind of lost the / that needs to be before subfield C. So let's make sure that we type in another one. Another field that we can lose is the 250 line, since our book doesn't have an addition statement. As before, we click where it says 250, and then we use the shortcut for remove row, Control Delete. We also can remove the 655 line, so click where it says 655, and use the same shortcut as before for remove row, Control Delete. With that, I think that we've removed everything that needs to be removed. And yes, we double check everything just to make sure, but it looks like we are good to go. The very last thing that we need to do is save the record. So we scroll all the way back up to the top of our record, and then we click the Save button. A confirmation message should appear, and then in a minute, we will be able to see our newly created record.